Just failure after failure after failure, an absolute national scandal that parents and families have had enough of being plumosed by the government, at being told sob stories of how everyone agrees this is awful, we're going to do something about it, but nothing ever changed. Just kind of moving around seats or decks on the deck chair, seats on the deck chair of the Titanic, in terms of you take therapists out of schools, you establish the CDNTs, now we're going to have a pilot program to put them back into schools, but the fundamental issue is there aren't enough therapists, and you can move them around all you like, but as long as you don't have enough therapists, you're not going to get through these current waiting lists. There are answers to this. Our motion provides answers in terms of every single school in the state being required to have a special school, special class for children with autism, in terms of massively increasing the number of SNAs, and in terms of taking immediate emergency measures to fill the huge numbers of vacancies in terms of therapists within the CDNTs. Someone gave me a series of FOIs that expose, in terms of some specialists, it's up to 70% vacancy rates of therapists. Like that, they're the fundamental reasons. There are answers, they're set out in our motion. We don't want just the government to allow our motion to pass, which is what they've been doing recently in relation to these motions. We want the government to actually implement the solutions which are outlined in our motion. The second point, briefly, is in relation to the transport through Irish airspace of Israeli munitions. You're right, yeah. So the second point is in relation to the transport of Israeli munitions, transported and paid for in some cases by the US administration, going to Israel, a state which is on a daily basis committing war crimes. We saw one just yesterday in terms of the attacks, including on civilians in Lebanon. And the fact that Micheál Martin, the Taoiseach and the Minister for Foreign Affairs misled the Dáil in April of this year in Leaders' Questions with Breed Smith, where he said, and I'll quote, he said that no airport in Ireland or Irish sovereign airspace is being used to transport weapons to the conflict in the Middle East or any other war. Thanks to the reporting and the journalism of The Ditch, we know that that is not the case. So we've written to the Business Committee, we're demanding a debate on this week in the Dáil. The state is complicit in the genocide that is taking place in Gaza at the moment. And thirdly and finally, just in relation to the scandal around the bike shelter. This is a scandalous waste of public money. But I think what's now emerging is that it's not just that. This is about outsourcing of things that previously would have been done directly by the OPW, directly by the public sector. This is outsourcing to well-connected private companies. The company that got the contract to build a bike shelter at the cost of almost €350,000 is Sensorai Facilities Management. You'll very regularly see the vans of Sensorai in the Oireachtas. You see them around the town. This is a company established by Michael Stone, no longer owned by Michael Stone. Obviously, Michael Stone is the guy who provided the free postering for Paschal Donoghue in the course of the last election, and then he had to explain it all away. But they get a huge number of public contracts here in the Dáil, but also across the state in terms of schools. School maintenance that previously would have been done by a maintenance man are now outsourced to Sensorai and other similar companies. So these private companies are making huge money from this public sector outsourcing, and there's very, very clearly these companies are very well politically connected. So again, we want this debated in the Dáil.
As soon as you're able to, you're just on a very fine point what's the relevance of them being well politically connected? I mean,
yes.
Either it's a fully independent contracting process where a big firm with loads of staff tenders for work and gets it, or they're subject propriety in how they get it. So are you alleging that there's a propriety, or what's the difference?
Yes, so I think there are very serious questions to be answered about why Sensorai has got the contracts that they have gotten, including the contract to build the bike shed. To me, something doesn't add up about bidding to build a bike shelter at the cost of almost €350,000 and that being signed off by the top level of the OPW and implicitly then certainly being agreed by the government, although the government is obviously looking to wash their hands of it. So I do think there are quite serious questions to be answered in relation to that.
Have you got any proof that there's impropriety though?
No. Well, So I have quite detailed questions that I'd like to be answered from the heads of the OPW. I would like to see the OPW come before the Public Accounts Committee, and I have quite particular questions that I would like to put to them about why Sensori have gotten the contracts that they have gotten. And so I'd like to see that play out and have the questions. And I'll just say that my questions are not just, oh, why did you give the contract to Sensori? I have more particular questions than that, but I want to put them either to the Minister or to the OPW.
Do you have a representation on PAC that you could bring this up tomorrow when they're sitting? I know it's kind of just...
We don't.
No, okay.
Richard, can I ask the Apple money and the building company, the state building company, is the idea that the 14 billion will be used to start a state building company, or would you like to buy a current company and bring it under state control?
Well, we have always said that a state construction company should take the resources and capacities of the LDA, whatever is left of NAMA, and then additional seed funding and multi-annual funding for the state to be able to deliver itself directly the social and affordable housing we need on public land. So that's what we've argued for some time. Interestingly, something that we were the first to argue for, and we've budgeted for it, I think, for at least 3 or 4 years in our pre-budget submissions. I note that NARI will also be arguing that might be a useful way to spend the Apple money in their presentation to my committee, to the Budget Scrutiny Committee today. So there's other people are now saying this. I mean, to me, it is just blindingly obvious when we've had reports that the private sector simply don't have the capacity. We've only a tiny number of firms in this country that are capable of building large numbers of houses, but they do not have the capacity to meet the sort of housing requirements of 60 to 70,000 houses a year. So it is now a matter of absolute urgency and necessity that we set up a state construction company and that we use the Apple billions for seed capital for that, take what resources and capacities are left in the LDA and NAMA, and provide the multi-annual funding to deliver the tens of thousands of social and affordable houses we need over the coming years.
All this speculation now about when the election will be. Labour's Ivana Bacik was out this morning proposing that we should have fixed jaw terms to kind of remove that speculation from the process. Is that something you can probably support?
Well, I certainly think the government should stop playing games with the public and torturing everybody about the date. I mean, the amount of time that is spent speculating about the election date is ridiculous. The amount of media time, the amount of political time, the amount of public conversation about when this election is going to take place is ridiculous. So the government should set the date now. As far as we're concerned, the sooner the better, but they should stop messing around and playing games and set the date.